Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. I am your host, Nina Joshi. One quick announcement before we bring on our guest for today. We have our May Symposium coming up next week. Make sure that you use the QR code or the link in the chat for tickets to this incredible event. And with that, would like to bring on our guest for today, Azadeh Dastmalchi, the co-founder and CEO of Vital Tracer. As you know, we love questions here at Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. So if you have any for Azadeh, please use the Q&A feature or the chat, and I'll make sure that we get to it. With that, welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to learn not only more about yourself, but also about Vital Tracer and all of the incredible work that you're doing there. So maybe, Azadeh, a great place for us to start is if you could just tell us a little bit more about your background, your journey, kind of what led you to where you are right now with Vital Tracer.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Azadeh Dastmalchi, CEO and co-founder at Vital Tracer. My background, I have a bachelor, master, PhD, all in biomedical engineering. And the Vital Tracer starts from the very back days in 2010 when I started my master at the University of Ottawa here in Canada. And so I try to address the cuff issues with the blood pressure monitoring devices, and I try to remove the cuff, make it cuff-less blood pressure monitoring technology. And that time, there was a lot of proposal that I proposed and rejected, but then at the final, we came up with using optical sensor and machine learning, which is artificial neural network at that time, to train the data using optical sensor. And then we build the technology in form of the watch. And the watch we're able to measure blood pressure without using cuff to inflate and deflate. And then whenever we pivoted for investors, they say that, yeah, the smartwatch as a startup, it's totally failure. Because we have a big player in the market, which is Apple, Fitbit, and Samsung. And although that I try to differentiate between a medical device class to technology versus the fitness and wellness, they said, yeah, they are the billion-dollar company. If they want to be in a medical area, they can do it in a one day. I was like, okay. And then that's why we pivoted from the watch to another form factor, which is the patch, which now the patch goes on a chest with the different optical sensor. And then we add more sensors to able to monitor all vital signs. And now this technology is in a form of the patch. We started with the elderly and with the dementia, people at senior centers, and it was really tough because dementia patients, they want to remove whatever they have it. And in Canada, it's with the government and public, and they don't have any digital platforms or any Wi-Fi. So it was kind of not success as we expected. That's why we then pivoted to children. Now we are a technology wearable medical device, which is as a remote patient monitoring technology for children.
Wow, that's incredible. What a journey. I mean, I'm sure there's so many interesting learnings that you've seen kind of along the way. But with kind of your Vital Tracer and kind of the product as it exists right now, what was really the inspiration for you to kind of build a technology like this?
So at the very beginning, it was my dad issue who was diagnosed in 2010 with the hypertension, and he hates the technology, which is inflate, and it was pushing too much. And then I searched with and saw that lots of parents, they especially seniors, they struggle with using a technology. Sometimes that it's a bit complex, or like if they are tethered to the technology, they don't like it to put it and then remove it and do that every day. This This
Right.
is not some things that they're on their comfort zone to do it. And then I thought that, you know what, my dad wear watch every day. So if we can come up with a wearable that's comfortable with them every day, that would be awesome. That's how it started.
Wow.
But then when we pivoted in 2018, I give a birth to my daughter, and they took it right away to a NICU, which is newborn ICU, and then they bring it to me with lots of different devices around her and ask for breastfeeding, which is a bit complex for me as a new mom. And
Mhm.
then it's like, you know what, we have to do something new. It's like these technologies been there for more than a century. We need a new technology, like a smart one. That's how we came up with the news. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, so much of, I think, health in general, but especially with your solution, it's also personal, right? With your family, with yourself. So it's great that you kind of get to be the end user of what you're developing, which is incredible. You had mentioned, Azadeh, you'd mentioned your father's hypertension and some of the other things that really was the inspiration behind this solution. What other kind of specific health challenges does Vital Tracer kind of help solve or kind of work for?
So right now we are concentrating on the remote patient monitoring. So if any patients who need, like if the hospital need to keep the patients only for monitoring purpose, they can discharge them 1 day or 2 day earlier and use the patch and send them home. So in this case, where it's like it would be more bed available for hospitals. Instead of nurse coming each 8 hours to measure vital signs and write it down and then go to the nursing station, it saves lots of time and energy for the nurses. They can do monitoring directly through the platform in a real time. So it saves lots of time and energy for the nurses, which is very important these days. And the other thing is that it's always for the patient comfort zone to stay home, and then
Mm-hmm.
they can recover much more better at home compared with the hospital. So it's like a win-win scenario for everyone. Save time and energy for the nurses, more saving lots of money for hospitals, and then it's much more better and easy, increase the quality of the patients when they stay at home.
No, totally. And can you tell us a little bit more about the technology? I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but if you could tell us more how the technology works and really what makes it unique from other things that are on the market right now.
Right. So the first thing that usually in a traditional, so it's a multi-devices, it's a Holter ECG, which can measure continuous monitoring for the heart rate variability, and EKG signal. And the current device is a bulky one that has a 12 leads, and they attach to the skin and they strap it everywhere. And so this is replacing with the only 2 lead patch, very light. And usually I talk with the two cardiologists and they say that usually children, especially teenager, they get bullied in a school if they use a halter on their clothes. So this technology is very light, and you know what? It's smart, very cool even to show off.
I love it.
So that's the one thing. But on the other hand, it can also measure oxygen saturation. So for the patients who has a asthma or need to be oftenly or frequently measure their oxygen saturation, specifically for COVID scenario, that would be a perfect fit as well. And respiratory rate as well. So it's also for the patients who have a lung disease or need to be monitored. And so it's a all high vital signs ECG as a Holter, heart rate variability, respiratory rate, oxygen saturation. It can detect also the skin temperature. Now we are working to able to get the core temperature as well, and the
Mm.
blood pressure will coming soon in the next years, not for now.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
beside that, it has a accelerometer and gyroscope for step count, activity tracker, and sleep analysis.
Wow. And for a lot of kind of what you're talking about, all of these incredible, metrics and vital signs, is that something, so for clinicians or patients themselves, is there kind of like an app or a portal or some kind of way that they're able to see all of this incredible information?
Yeah, it transfer all these data via the Bluetooth to the smartphone, and there is a two UI UX, two different design interface. One for the end user, which might be a parent or the patient themselves, that they can see the simple vital sign number only or traceability. And it's for the nurses and the healthcare provider, like a medical doctor, that they can see more detail if they want. And on the other hand, after this mobile app, it's connected to the portal, which is the online web app that nurse can see in the nursing station multiple patients at the same time. It can give a notification if there is any abnormality for any patients.
Wow, that's incredible. And I'm so curious because you've had patients that are kind of seniors, kind of in that space, and then as well as children, like two very different cohorts. I'm so curious, like how do you approach the design of the technology or just even some of those things when it comes to two very different age groups?
So I need to emphasize again, for now, because we are a startup, we are still in a pre-revenue stage.
Mhm.
We concentrated only with children. So we start with the children. We pivoted a couple of times. We started with the elderly. It was for adult blood pressure, then elderly, now children. So right now we are on children. And the reason, because whatever available for the children, they design it, the manufacturer design it for adult and say that, you know what, it's good for children as well. And in the standards, they usually say that the seniors and children and pregnant women, they are vulnerable groups. So they do not validate on them. And you know what? They don't design for them as well, which is
Mhm.
very wrong. So we always come up with a funny phrase that we designed by children for children. So like me, children. So, so it's very cool.
That's amazing.
And
And oh, go for it.
so the other differentiation, that this technology designed for children, and we validate all the vital signs with the children, not adult.
That's amazing. And it's so true. I think to be able to design something that's specifically for them instead of just having a technology that is just kind of given to them is, so needed. So it's incredible that that's the approach that you're taking. Because I mean, that's incredible. I'm
Thank you very
also
much.
I'm also so curious. One of the things that you were talking about too, when designing for children, something that you said was so interesting to me about how you have to think about, what it's like when they wear it at school and how that affects like their adherence to the technology. Is there anything else that was kind of that's unique with children that you had to kind of think through when designing it for them?
So a different human ergonomic, of course, is a vital for these scenarios, that make sure that it's light, it's comfort, and it need to look cute and at the same time cool as well. So we have different stickers that whether it shows a Superman or Batman or like a crown for Queen or unicorn, stylish as well. So different styles for any different desire at the same time, but like having a flexibility. We right now we have our alpha prototype in a clinical trial. We finished the first phase of trial. Then we learn a lot from that user experience. And then the next generation has a more flexibility in the wing side for the children, to make sure that if they are moving a lot, but still we can get a very good quality of signal. So it has a lot of mechanical, industrial design, but at the same time, we use our children really at home. That's like, do you like this color or the other ones? And then we go to their schools or on birthday and ask their friends of friends to get feedback in the real scenario.
That's the best. You have like real-time feedback from your users, so that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I wanted to ask, and you had mentioned kind of the work that you're doing with the clinical trial, which is super exciting. Would love if you could share a little bit more, and maybe for some, founders that are on the call right now, what does kind of collaboration look like whether it's health systems or research clinicians? What are some of the ways that you're kind of thinking already about collaborating just to kind of get feedback or just to kind of, spread the word about the product?
Yeah. So clinical trial is a mandatory part that if any class 2 devices need to go to the market, it's a mandatory, it's not optional. You have to do clinical trial. And especially in the US, it's mandatory. And in Canada, it's highly recommended. But in any ways, if you want to get the real feedback in a real scenario, you have to do it anyways. And in this case, it's key opinion leaders. Even before building the MVP, minimal viable product, you have to go to your customer. And sometimes customer would be different than end user. In our case, customer would be hospital because we are B2B, we are selling to the hospital. So our customer would be hospital. And on the other hand, medical doctors and nurses would be users, but end users at the same time would be parents and patients, which would be the child. And so there are a bit complex in our scenarios that we need to talk with each of them and get feedback. And but if we started with to figure out that in our local area, who is the key opinion leaders as a medical device, medical expert in this field, or as if we want to choose the principal investigator for our clinical trials, who is the unique one. And the unique person needs to be also very motivated. So in our case specifically, actually, we found like our principal investigator found us versus us found him because we were submitted for another trial on adult on a government grant. And then he was one of the committee who read it. And then he contacted us and say that, hey, listen, we really need this for children. Can you make it smaller and comfortable for children? And we can make a child device. It was like, yeah, of course, let's try. And we went in. And another thing that I made it by mistake, and I don't recommend others to do it, that we went on parallel. We had adult blood pressure watch project, and on the other hand we have a watch and patch for children and watch and patch for elderly. And at some point, and I thought that, you know what, it's watch is very similar, the patch, but different form factor in term of the design, which is totally wrong. At the end I figured out that, and we lost lots of time and money in human resources on not concentrating on a project. And we thought that, yeah, it's the same but different age. It's totally different scenarios. Senior versus adult, it's totally another thing. Compared with the children, oh my God, it's another world.
Wow. I'm kind of on that note too. I'm also so curious for, folks that are on the call that are early stage founders. For you, what have been some of the lessons learned that, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be so many too as you continue to grow the business. But yeah, are there any other, lessons learned or hurdles you had to overcome, just kind of from the work that you've done so far?
What's your gut sense? If you don't have IBS, by the way. But yeah, if like lots of time I try to when we wanted to hire a manufacturer or consultant or another subcontractor, sometimes I don't feel comfortable with the contract or with the person or with the agreement. And I had that issue before, that I can't say no to people. I say yes to this, yes to that. And that was really bad. But at some point, my coach Edna forced me to start saying no. And she said that start saying no to me. I was like, no, you are my coach. I respect you. And especially, you know what, in our culture, we have to super respect our seniors and our coach and our parents, and we shouldn't say no. I was like, no, no, that's a totally different word. Start saying no to me. I was like, okay, no. And then I learned a lot to say no if I don't feel comfortable, or I just feel that's not correct. Like saying no, that's no. And then the other things that I learned is in a very hard way, concentrate. Although that it looks very similar, watch and patch, adult and senior, no, that's totally different. Only one, and it should be very niche, niche, niche. So in terms of children market compared with the senior, it's very, very small, but it was much more easier to start data collections from children's skin, quality of the signal, compared with the seniors. It's lots of wrinkles and it's very tough. So I wish that I knew that like 10 years ago. But anyways, I learned hard, and then it started with this really baby steps. Instead of going for all vital signs, if I concentrated only on an ECG, which was the easiest one, maybe I had the FDA clearance right now with my very first technology. But I was like, no, all vital signs at the same time. It's very same, it's very similar, blah, blah, blah. No, no. Each of them, they have its own standards. We have to go through each of them separately, and that's totally different.
That is just great lessons learned, even for me as someone that's not even a founder. What you're saying about, like how hard it is to say no sometimes, and just kind of being concentrated on a specific thing. I feel like I could already use that advice. So thank you. That was just general life advice, very helpful. I also wanted to ask, yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to ask you, and also kind of for folks that are kind of in the stage that you are, maybe like the pre-revenue stage, what does kind of funding look like for you? Did you go the VC route? Did you kind of go more grants? What did you kind of do from that angle?
In Montreal, they call it Queen of Grant, they call me, because I was able to get raised $2 million non-dilutive from federal and different provinces.
Wow.
And that was a really sweet point. But in terms of raising money dilutive, and you know what? For medical device, $2 million is nothing at all. Like from the idea to in a market for hardware and software, which is our scenario, would be like totally 10 years full time with at least $20 million. So we try to like save, not spend, which is not good idea. I don't recommend as well these things, but we had no choice. I tried once to raise money for dilutive in a pandemic time, but and I got like a $1 million for safe, but the two investors, they were both angel investors. They didn't show up on the day to sign a contract, and one of them never answered me, but the other one texted me that it's the time to invest in real estate, which I totally agree with him compared with the medical device. So he invested in a real estate, which is totally makes sense. I agree in terms of ROI, that was the best choice at that time specifically. But then I realized that it was a bit early for us at that time. But now we are waiting to the final results from clinical trial, and we are very ready to open our round. And this is the exact time to do that. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So kind of on that note, what are some of the milestones, the things that you have to look forward to for Vital Tracer within like the next year? or in 2025. So I know the clinical trial, which is phenomenal. Are there any other particular milestones that you're excited about?
Yeah, we are in a finalizing the next final version of our device. So it's going to be totally in different, like industrial design, and it would be awesome, like a game changer in terms of like a final version of our technology. Because right now we built, and the one that is on trial is the alpha. It's not a final one. But we are in the middle of building the beta and test the beta, and then go for the mass production of DFM, like design for manufacture and mass production for the final one. So we have the final design of our product, and then we have to do another trial for that one as well. Which that this one is now we are comparing beat to beat continuous monitoring on children at ICU. And the reason that we start with the ICU, because ICU has the most accurate device, which they call it gold standard technology. And it's the only technology that can monitor beat by beat continuous monitoring in real time. So we are comparing with the most accurate devices available for children there. And then second phase would be monitoring in hospital, but not at the ICU, after they release or discharge the patients to the general floor. And then the last phase would be send them home and monitor them at home. So it has a three phases.
Wow. So all the different environments.
That's correct.
That's amazing. Wow. I mean, this has been such an enlightening conversation. I do realize we're so close to time. So wanted to kind of end. I mean, honestly, you've given so many good like life lessons, just general insights. But one of my favorite questions to kind of end with is if you have any just general, words of wisdom, any maybe something that a mentor had told you that really stuck with you that you want to share with us, just for the founders, for the other folks on the call, anything would be super helpful.
Concentrate, concentrate, and concentrate.
I love it. That's incredible. And I mean, you with your kind of experience and that context, I think is so helpful.
And mental health. Take care of your mental health every single day. Meditations, I can't say more, and emphasize on mental health as well.
That's
If
huge.
you feel that, especially for founders, they might feel that they are alone, as like mental health is number 1, 2, 3 as well.
That's so helpful. Thank you so much for such an incredible conversation.
Pleasure.
We'll have to bring you back once things have kind of gone through the FDA clearance, and so you can tell us even more about what you've got cooking. I so appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Nina.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Make sure you join our next episode next week. Wanted to give a quick shout out to our incredible sponsors, as well as one last huge thank you to Azadeh for an incredible conversation. And we will see you all next Wednesday. Bye, everyone.